Hey, welcome! Today I'm going to share my thoughts on God of War 2018 and I'm going to make somewhat of an unprofessional review about it. I hope you will enjoy it, so let's get started. First of all, I'll talk about the most important things in a game, in my opinion, the gameplay and the core mechanics. And most importantly, the combat. The combat is done right. It's extremely balanced in my opinion. The game is a hack and slash, so you don't really have to think about what you're doing all the time, except when you're fighting extremely tough enemies. But you will find extreme joy when defeating any enemy, honestly. The whole combat system is very fun, even if it might be simple. On your weapons you've got a left and a right click, and you can do some simple combos with those left and right clicks. Now to defend yourself, you've got a shield. Most basic attacks of enemies can be blocked by your shield, but some attacks are a little bit different. Now, the enemies have different attacks. They've got your normal ass attacks that you'll probably expect. But then you've got the yellow aura kind of attacks. There's a little yellow aura when they're charging the attack up, and you can perfectly block it with a shield to stun them for a second, and you can get the upper hand on them using this perfect block with a shield. Enemies have one more type of attack, which is the red aura kind of attacks. While they're charging the attack up, they've got a red aura around them for a second or something like that. And you have another way to defend yourself from those attacks, since you cannot block them with your shield. I call this thing the row dodge. You basically use space, if you're playing this on PC, to dodge in different directions. You can use this row dodge to also create more space between enemies and you. And in the beginning of the game I really used them a lot more than the shield for some reason, because it kind of felt familiar to me. Now another way to not get hit in the game is by attacking first. There are a few attacks, not most, just a few attacks that can stun the enemy when you attack them. In those situations you're probably better off attacking first, even though you have to be very careful when you try that strategy. Now about the weapons. In the beginning of the game, you've only got the axe. You've got your basic combos, like I've said in the beginning, but you've also got axe throws. These axe throws are very cool because they're the type of attack that can stun the enemy for a bit, and you can aim them at pretty much anything. There's a couple of variations of those axe throws that you can use a little later in the game, but in the beginning you've only got the normal axe throw, which does a bit of damage, and it works how you would think it would work. Now, a slight spoiler, don't worry, it's nothing that important. A little later in the game, you get another weapon, the Chaos Blades. The Chaos Blades are literally the coolest thing you can imagine. I love them. The second I got them, I started using them and completely forgot about the axe. Unfortunate for the axe, right? It's basically two blades on chains. You can do some cool combos with it. And you've also got a cool move which is also aimed, and when you hit it, the enemies get booed to you. Kind of like the get over here from Mortal Kombat. Also they have elemental damage of fire, and one thing I forgot to mention about the axe is that the axe has got an elemental damage of ice. It does frozen damage, something like that. Whilst the Chaos Blades have got the fire damage. They're kind of unnoticeable, but they're cool details. Now both weapons have got their own runic attacks. You've got a heavy and a light runic attack. These attacks have big cooldown, like more than 30 seconds, most of the time at least. But they also deal a lot of damage. You can probably do some complex shit with it. There's a lot of variations of those runic attacks. Some you can purchase from the store, some you get in chests. It's different and I really like it, because it kind of makes the combat a little bit more complex. You've also got the talismans. Talismans basically have some effects around you. Some of them weaken the enemies, some of them deal some damage and freeze them, or at least get them slower. I kind of didn't use those talismans until the very end of the game. For some reason I just didn't find them that useful. But if you get used to them, you can definitely find their place. An incredibly cool core mechanic of the game is the Spartan Rage. Now, you've got a bar of rage right below your health bar, which indicates how much rage you've got. When the bar is full, you can use it whenever you want, and you get in this cool mode where you fight enemies with your fists, and you also regenerate a little bit, whilst the bar goes down with time. Spartan Rage in the beginning is quite simple, only spamming enemies with fists, but once you upgrade it, you can do a bunch of things with it, like throwing rocks at enemies. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Now I mentioned health. You've got a health bar, like in every other game, that you can regenerate by using health stones. Those health stones are usually found when you defeat an enemy, they just drop it, or you can find them when you destroy vases and barrels and destructible things, basically. Yeah, there are some destructible things, and in most of them you can find health stones. So look around. While you're low on health and you're fighting an enemy, you might find a couple of vases that can get you a bit of health. In the beginning, your health bar and the Spartan Rage bar are quite low, but you've got a way to permanently upgrade them. There are special chests called the Njornir chests that have things in them that you have to collect 3 out of 3 of to get the next upgrade of either your health bar or the rage bar. The Njornir chests look a little different and you have to do some puzzle to actually unlock the chest. I'm telling you, it's crucial, it's extremely important to get every Njornir chest that you see. In the end game, you will not regret it, and you definitely need it to defeat the final enemies. If you didn't already know, in this game you play as Kratos, but you've also got your son Atreus with you. Now Atreus isn't just some useless NPC that you've got with you. Atreus can actually attack enemies and be useful. With time he gets more and more useful. He uses a bow and arrows. In the beginning you've got some plain ass arrows that you deal a small amount of damage with. Later on you get a blue type of arrows that are magical arrows. They deal more damage and are extremely useful against an enemy called the Dark Elves. And even later on in the game you've got the yellow type of arrows. Those are my favorites, and once I got them I only really used them. Those yellow arrows stun enemies. That's awesome, yeah? They're like electric arrows, and once you hit a couple of them they stun the enemy. In the beginning, in your quiver, you've got 3 arrows that you can tell Atreus to shoot whenever you want. He also shoots arrows sometimes on his own, but it doesn't really take it from his quiver. And he does do a couple more cool things. He can choke enemies, which again stuns them and makes them easier to kill. I've seen that some enemies also attack him, but that's quite rare. But Atreus he can basically get downed when he gets hit by a couple of enemies, or when an enemy tries to possess him. Like there's a certain type of enemy that can possess Atreus and other enemies as well. You can help him get up to make the getting up faster, or you can just leave him to suffer. He will eventually get up, but it's just going to be slower and he won't be useful in that period of time. Atreus has also got another type of cool attack, the summons. They basically work like the runic attacks for your weapons, but Atreus summons a certain animal. There's a lot of summons that you can pick from. But yeah, you have to find them the way you find your runic attacks. But there's a lot of summons you can pick from, and each of them do different and cool things. You can summon wolves, you can summon crows. Crow summon is my favorite. You can summon a squirrel. Most of them deal damage, but a squirrel can actually give you health stones. At least that's what I've seen from the description. That's how I understood it. And there's many more. They are there for a short amount of time, but are also influenced whether you have the blue arrows on or the yellow arrows on. Now I'll tell you about different enemies. You've got a bunch of simple enemies that each and every one of them has an extremely cool design. You've got the Draugrs that you find in the beginning of the game, mostly. You've also got the big Draugrs that basically have more health and they deal heavier attacks, but they're just Draugrs, but bigger. And then there's the Revenants. They're the bane of my existence. I'm telling you, I hate them. They're basically witches that can be invincible whenever they decide, but once you hit them with a couple of arrows, they don't go in their invincible mode, and that's when you can hit them. But they're extremely annoying to fight. Then there's the Dark Elves. They're found mostly in a certain realm. Quite tough to beat. Then there's the Nightmare. The Nightmare are those things that float around and deal a small amount of damage. and kind of spit things at you, even though they're just eyes, they're literally eyes floating around. Some of them can possess you or Atreus or different enemies as well, but once you get the hang of beating them, it's quite easy to beat them, since they have a low amount of health. Then there's the Hellwalkers. The Hellwalkers you gotta beat with the Blades of Chaos or with your hands only. Ooh, that's right. Something I didn't say was that you can use your hands only, and at first it might not seem that useful, that's what I thought as well. But there is the thing that is basically like a finisher bar, something like that. And when you hit enemies from behind or with your bare hands, this bar goes up, and when it's red, you can instantly kill off an enemy. It's a pretty cool thing, and it also gives you a second to take a breath if you're in a sticky situation. Then there's the Wolvers and Wolves. I'm not sure which is which, but one of them are literally just wolves, and the other ones they're like werewolves. And they're another extremely hard type of enemy to kill. I hate them. And I also call them furries. Then there's the Tatsa worms. Those things can go inside of the ground and surprise you. When they're not underground, they're pretty easy to kill. Now about the bigger type of enemies. You've got the Augurai. The Augurai are very cool to kill, because once you kill them, you can literally ride on top of that thing and deal damage to other enemies through the Augurai while hitting it and finishing it off like that. It's an extremely cool and unique experience. Then there's the Traveler type of enemy. You've got the bigger travelers and the smaller ones. They literally look like a character from Dark Souls. They use a sword and they've got a shield on their backs, and once the shield on their back is facing you, you cannot hit their back. You really gotta have patience to kill those guys, because you can only really kill them once they attack you. Then there's the Ancients. The Ancients are basically a big rock that can move and has something like legs and arms, and it's got a core. The core opens up whenever it attacks, and the only way to defeat it is by attacking its core. And when you attack its core using something like the axe throws, something from the core that explodes comes off from the core, and that thing deals even more damage to the Ancient whenever you grab it and you throw it at it. It kind of sounds complex when I explain it like that, but it's easy to get the hang of. And then you've got the Trolls. Those guys have been a constant mini boss throughout the game. Now about the story boss battles. Those are just incredible. I won't spoil you anything about those battles, but they're just incredible. I've never seen a better design, story-wise and fight-wise, when it comes to boss battles in probably any game that I've played. Now that we are talking about boss battles, I'll also tell you about the post-game content, or I should say the main post-game content, which are the Valkyries. The Valkyries are enemies that are extremely difficult to beat. There's a reason why they are post-game content, but it's done extremely well on a side mission on its own. There are 8 Valkyries scattered around the different realms and across Midgard. There is a story behind all of these Valkyries and why they have ended up the way they have, and you gotta free them from their curse. Once you defeat all of these 8 Valkyries, you go and fight basically the hardest and really the final boss of the game. Once you complete that boss, you know for a fact you've probably done everything you could do in the game. That final boss literally took me about 3 hours of attempts. But that might be because of another thing. The fact that I played the game on Give Me a Challenge difficulty. You can set the game in the beginning to 4 different difficulties. Give me a story, give me a balanced experience, give me a challenge, and then give me God of War. I have no idea what Give Me God of War means, but I really don't want to find out. I played the game on Give Me a Challenge. In my opinion, that way it really made the game better, since it wasn't easy, it wasn't a breeze to go through. I really had to learn how to play the game, and I knew that when I mess up, I'm going to really pay the price for that. In the beginning it was quite annoying, but then I just got used to the difficulty, and it ended up being an incredibly balanced experience. It wasn't too hard, it was absolutely beatable on Give Me a Challenge difficulty, You just have to learn the game and you have to be dedicated enough to finish everything. Now, since the game is an RPG, you've got the RPG elements. There is the different stats like strength, defense, vitality, luck, runic, and cooldown. I think that's all. In this game, from chests, you get Hacksilver. Hacksilver is like gold. You can spend it in shops buying different things like armor, resurrection stones, and then you've got XP. XP is used to upgrade your different abilities. There's armor and different armor sets. Those different armor pieces each have got enchantment slots, or at least the ones that have a better rarity have enchantment slots. They are called sockets. In those sockets you can put enchantments. Those enchantments give you different stats as well as different abilities and sometimes effects. A fun fact is that epic rarity is stronger than legendary, and epic is portrayed with yellow and legendary is portrayed with purple. That is literally the opposite of what every other game has been doing. Like I briefly mentioned with the XP, you've got a skill tree. That's where you use your XP. In this skill tree you can upgrade different things, like your ranged combat or close combat for the Leviathan Axe, the shield combat, the rage combat, the melee combat and elemental combat of the Blades of Chaos, and also the magic combat and expert combat of Atreus. The thing that I did was that I maxed out Atreus first, because it's literally bonus free damage from doing nothing. But in the end of the game you have everything upgraded and you have a ton of XP that you haven't been able to use on anything. It was hard to find things to use my XP on. The same thing goes for the Hacksilver. Like, there's a point in the game that when you buy the things that you need, all the armor sets that you need, and all the different things, you have nothing else to spend your stuff on. I'm not sure if this is a problem only for me, but yes, that's fine. More is better. Oh yeah, also, some skills that have been upgraded get better when you have better stats. That's something cool that I noticed really only in the late game. You'll probably also notice it only then, since you need extremely good stats to see the effects of those skills. Now, for some reason, I took a lot of time to finish this game. Now, for me, it took like more than 3 months to finish this game. Don't worry, it won't take you that long, but for me it was probably because I had to edit everything while I was also doing TikTok on the side. You can go check out my TikTok if you didn't know I had one. Shameless plug. But it probably took me about, I would say, 40 hours of game time. For the average player it will probably take 20 to 30 hours. And if you're more like me and you want to complete everything, it might take you up to 50 hours to 100% the game. Now about side quests. Most games nowadays get side quests wrong. In God of War there are only a few side quests. Like there's maybe maximum 10 side quests. The Valkyrie quest is one of those, but all of those side quests are kind of cool and they're different from each other. Some of them have even got some story in them. And I literally wanted to complete every single one of those side quests. In the end of those side quests, they really give you powerful pieces for your sets, like enchantments, sometimes armor, and different things like that. This is one of the only games that I can tell you that have got good side quests that are worth completing. And then about the world. The world is so well made. It's so different from anything that I've seen before. You've got the main place called Midgard. It's also the biggest and most vast place out of all the places that you can visit. You've got a cool ass lake. You've got some huge mountains. You've got different hidden areas. You've also got the witch's cave. You've got a lot of places, man. I love the world. I just wanted to explore more and more. It's one of the few games that I've ever felt that with. And I haven't even told you a main thing about this. You've got different realms. Those different realms are literally whole new worlds. Midgard is the main place, and like I told you, there's a lake. In the middle of that lake, you've got a place that you can switch the realm that you're in. Midgard is one realm. Then you've got Alfheim. Alfheim is the second realm that you unlock after Midgard. And it's actually so cool. It reminded me of like the Amazon River or something. Really an amazing place with a great design. Then there's Helheim, the realm of ice. That's where all the dead, lost, poor souls go to when they try to go to Valhalla. That whole place is literally blue, filled with ice and lost souls. Then there's Muspelheim. That's a place that you unlock on the side. It's not a part of the main story, but you can unlock it. You've got 5 or 6 arenas that you do different trials in, and you get rewards for completing them. Also, this whole place is based around one big volcano kind of thing. It's the fire realm, literally. When you go through the trials, you slowly climb the volcano thing, and the lava around and everything is so fucking cool. The world design is unreal in this game. Next up, the last unlockable side realm is Niflheim. Niflheim is the mist realm. You've got a bunch of weird mist that literally does damage to you when you're in it, and you've got a timer before you die. It's an endgame content area, and probably the last thing you will do before doing the Valkyries. Like in Muspelheim, this place has also got its own spin. The main place, the Ivaldi workshop, is a maze-like place that you unlock chests in and you fight enemies to get through different areas, or you could just skip the enemies and unlock your chests on the way. Also, you have to dodge different traps to get to different areas, and from those chests you get different rewards for cool endgame armor and abilities, sets, things like that. A place that I had to grind a lot before the Valkyries. Whilst Muspelheim is more of mid to end game content, Niflheim is late to post game content, if I can call it that. I've never seen anything like this. Different realms, 5 different places that you can go to, all with their different spins on it, either on the story or on the side. But everywhere you find puzzles. The puzzles are usually not that hard, and I believe everybody can do them with simple logic and game sense in one try. I wanna complain a little bit though about something, and that is a few bugs. There was this Spartan Rage glitch that really annoyed me, especially when fighting the Valkyries. Like, it was a visual and sound glitch that when you're spamming your fists, it looks weird, cranky, and like it's not hitting. I'm not sure why that's happening. It might be because of the port to PC. I also found my game crashing a bit. Like on 2 or 3 occasions I had my game crash. I am not sure if it's because of the port itself or because my PC might not be the newest or the best out there, but it was happening. Not always, but a few times it happened. Now, I just wanted to talk about the amazing graphics and art style. The art style is so realistic when it comes to different scenery and landscapes and things like that. It's just so amazing. Everything is so beautiful to look at. Those landscapes and scenery are just breathtaking. I can't imagine how good that will look if you play the game on max settings. Another thing that made the game so memorable is definitely the music and soundtracks. I've never heard more beautiful soundtracks in a game before. It really added to the atmosphere so much whenever there was some epic soundtrack going or some sad and slow soundtrack going. It just makes you resonate with everything and it makes you feel like you're in heaven. Now I'm going to go through the synopsis without spoiling you anything. Many years have passed since the original God of War games. Kratos took his vengeance against the Olympian gods. Having survived his final encounter with his father Zeus, Kratos has since traveled to Midgard in ancient Norway and now lives with his young son Atreus in the world of Norse gods, a savage land inhabited by many ferocious monsters and warriors. In order to teach his son, whose mother and Kratos' second wife has recently died, how to survive in such a world, Kratos must master the rage that has driven him for many years and embrace his newfound role as a father and a mentor. This is basically all you need to know before going into the game when it comes to story. But I also want to talk about our main characters, Kratos and Atreus. The character development is so awesome and you can really see how one or the other grows so much because of the other. Kratos and Atreus are my favorite duo of all time probably. definitely my favorite father and son duo. Kratos is now a father that has to teach his son about everything and has to leave his past behind. Forget about all the slaughtering that he did. Forget about all of his rage and make his son Atreus go to the right path. And by the end, the game just makes you ask, what's next? It literally leaves you with so many questions. The story is so amazing, and I just wish that all of those questions are going to get answered in God of War Ragnarok. A game that I just wish would come faster to the PC so that I can play it. Now I'll give you my conclusion. God of War 2018 is an incredible game. It has a great balanced combat system with amazing visuals, amazing scenery, and especially out of this world music. It has a fantastic world that you just want to dive in and explore for days. It has an outstanding story, characters, and character development. It's absolutely one of the best games that I have ever played. For some reason, something just feels like it's missing. I have no idea what that is, but it's such a small piece, an incredibly small piece, that I hope gets put in its place in God of War Ragnarok. The game is extremely close to being a masterpiece for me. The thing is, I hardly ever in my life consider anything a masterpiece, which is a 10 out of 10. So, I would personally rate it as an outstanding 9.5 out of 10. Hopefully, this 0.5 will get added whenever I play Ragnarok. I hope that you've enjoyed this review. Tell me what you think about God of War 2018 in the comments. You can also watch my series if you haven't already. It's on the channel and it's also in the top right corner of this video. Like and subscribe to see more, and see you next time.